Hey, this is Christina Feliciano, nurse practitioner with Dr. Tiffany Thornton. She is a chiropractor, she is a wife, she's a mother, she has her own nonprofit organization, she speaks, and she's also a children's author, and she's also a pageant winner. So she has done a lot of things in a short period of time, and she's here to talk about her occupation and, more importantly, her nonprofit and what she's doing to help children. So welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
really
excited.
Tell us a little about yourself. What is your background? What's your educational background?
So my husband and I are both chiropractors. My bachelor in science is in kinesiology with a concentration in neurology. I'm from Massachusetts originally, and that's where I got my undergrad. And then I knew I wanted to be in the business of like renewing. So originally I wanted to be an obstetrician. And through kind of a series of believing a few lies about myself, was like, it'll never happen. I also wanted to be a mom and just juggling, not to say that it can't happen, but just juggling that schedule and like what I wanted. I was like, I don't know, if even being a doctor is something that's on the table. And then I actually had a part-time job for a chiropractor my senior year of high school, and he was super smart. He actually got me to read patient testimonials before I ever became a patient. And all I saw was people's stories, just like as you turn the pages, you just watched life come back to people, like, or it was their last effort in a healing journey, or, you know, they thought all hope was gone, and then they were able to just have, you know, another chance at a dream, another chance at life, you know, being able to go back to living the way they wanted.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what attracted me to obstetrics to begin with, was something new starting.
Yes, yeah.
And so I was like, I can still kind of like tap into that like deep soul want through this profession. So that's what got me into chiropractic. I went to Florida for grad school, and
so did I.
Yeah,
Right.
Loved it. And then actually I met my husband on a mission trip for chiropractors. So
Okay, very
Yes.
cool. Where did you guys go?
Dominican Republic.
Okay, were you at the top of the island or the bottom?
We were right on the
The
border.
north or south? I should say. Sorry.
Puerto Platas, and I think that's on the eastern side of the. No,
I think Puerto Plata might be the north.
is it? Okay, I'm gonna
I'm
trust
not
you.
sure.
Really bad with
I don't
maps.
know. I went to Dominican, but I went to the north side, not like the part that was super was it touristy where you were?
So when I went for the short mission trips, yes, but when I
Okay.
actually spent 7.5 months there right after I graduated from the doctoral program, just because of a series of events, I was like, I have got to learn who I am and who God says I am, and this is just getting to be a whole mess. And I actually lived in a bunch of different areas, like the capital, Salcedo, like Jarabacoa, a lot of different
Okay, that's
jungly
really
places.
cool.
Yeah.
Have you always been a Christian?
So I was raised Catholic,
Okay.
so whatever people consider that to be. But my own relationship with the Lord started actually after basically like just me facing every lie that I had believed about myself. I grew up, I had like wonderful parents. They had a really hard relationship. And when, you know, there's that much turmoil in the house, things happen. And I just made choices that, you know, I basically just wanted to separate myself from everything, and thought that, you know, my 18-year-old self could figure out life because it was so smart. And so I got myself into a relationship with a guy. He went to the same school that I went to, which was a Christian school. And I had been questioning a couple things about the Catholic faith at that time. And at that point, I was just angry, really, about what was going on at home. You know, just seeing everything fracture before my eyes. And naturally, not okay. But I wanted to, you know, place blame and create separation. So I kept seeing the guy. We got engaged. We got married. And he was very, very like cut down humor. You know, quick little insults. It was also very reserved, very quiet, because things were very loud in the home. I associated the opposite, which was quiet. I'm like, well, that's good. I can handle quiet.
Yeah.
I can handle, you know, a little cut down here or there, as long as it's quiet. I just, you know, didn't realize that what I was walking into. So I quite literally walked into hell. You know, I don't drink. It's just a personal choice. My older sister and I, decided when we were, I think, in like 4th grade.
I wish I had. I'm in recovery for drugs and alcohol,
Oh,
so
my gosh,
if I could go back and have that 4th grade decision, my life would have been a lot better and easier.
They were like, we have, just so you know, I want you to be aware of it. And it's really smart for them to let us know that young, like 4th and 5th grade.
Wow.
We have alcoholism on both sides of our family, and we're not sure when you'll be introduced to this, but just have that in the back of your mind. And we were at our like homework desk. Yes.
That's a really big blessing.
Huge. And we just were like, well, let's just not,
Wow.
And then
both of you did?
Both of us
That's
did.
A gift from, I can almost just say you want to cry. That's a gift from God, because
really is.
It's been really really destructive in my life. So to hear someone have that choice, that's a really huge blessing.
And because of that, it's never been a temptation. But my now ex, he struggled with alcohol, and that was always, you don't drink, you don't know what too much is. Yeah. But I knew that
I can tell it's
I was like, when you're starting to break things, and we're trying to find tools, I was like, feel like we've reached a limit. Yes. And like all dark humor aside, it got to like the cut downs went to physical, went to very dangerous, and something in his life got exposed because he had basically a trigger memory. He said, this event happened in my past. I was like, well, then you should probably get some help for that. And everything, I mean, as though it wasn't already spiraling out of control, it got so dangerous. He tried to take my life 3 times, and one of those times he was trying to take both of our lives. So it was just like senselessly violent is the only way that I couldn't describe it. I mean, imagine that you're at home, you're studying, everything is clean, there's dogs are fed, and then someone comes in and they just take off their belt and start just like whipping it around, like just because it is Tuesday. There's no
like there's something like demonic or mental illness, something
100%.
Yes, that makes me like sad, but no,
it was and
that's something very dark,
very, very dark. And I remember one time
that's evil.
It was so bad.
That's evil. That's not like
no. I remember one time specifically, not the move, I hid in the bathroom, but it was like an apartment, so no window to bathroom, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I just thought, he's a D3 college athlete, like 6'3". He's pounding on the door. He's drunk, so that drunk strength can go either way. And he's like pounding on the door, and I was like, why did I hide in here? Like, I can't go anywhere. And then the pounding stopped, and I don't know, I ended up falling asleep in the tub, and he was asleep by the time I got out of the bathroom the next day. But all these things, I basically thought, like, God, I kind of made my bed, now I have to lie in it. And I've got to fix my way out of this. Like, I've created this mess, and it was awful. And God, I was so good at hiding mess because of my upbringing. And again, no shade thrown at my parents at all, but it was just like, we were trying to keep all of that private.
Yes.
And so you're just very well groomed in that behavior. And so I was really trying to keep this private. And it was affecting my weight. It was affecting my sleep. I was basically like sleeping in hotels when I could afford them. And then I was living on like student loans. And then all of a sudden I couldn't afford them. So there was a 24/7 Denny's and there's a 24-hour Walmart. And I felt safer at the Walmart because there was always a police officer there. So there were so many nights I couldn't go home, or I had to wait to go home until I knew he left for work to shower, take a nap, and then go to clinic. Yes. And though one of the nights where it got really, really bad, and he attempted both for our lives, I didn't even have shoes, and I ran out the door, and I was like hiding in the parking lot. And I remember trying to hold my breath so he couldn't hear my like panting. He ended up going inside. I took a car and just left, and I went to a friend's house, and I was like, this is the biggest mistake. I'm making the biggest mistake. Because now I'm out. Now I'm exposed. And I just said, I can't say anything. I just need to stay here the night. She didn't ask any questions. She just let me stay there. And then that was like my window of opportunity. And I can't tell you how fast I slammed it shut. Next Monday, she and her roommate caught me in clinic. We're like, Tiff, what's going on? I was like, it's just, how guys can be. He was just so annoying. I just couldn't. And they were like, really? I was like, no, I swear I'm fine. And I got the 2 hands on the shoulder, like, tell me what's going on. I was like, I'm fine. And that was the biggest F word I've ever said in my life, because it was like, I'm fine, lying through my teeth. And it took like 3 more weeks of just this, again, this living hell. And one night I got a warning call anyhow, like, just know as soon as you get home, you know it's coming for you. And I looked at my bank account and I'm like, I don't have enough to stay at a hotel. And I was so tired and I'm just bawling. And my study partner at that point was always late, like literally always late. And sometimes it would just kind of no-show. And I figured like, oh, they're just a no-show. And so they come into the study room like an hour late and, you know, obviously crying. Like, I get there, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just so stressed about boards. Boards were coming up.
Yes.
And they're like, no, but what's really going on? I was like, it's just boards, man. I'm like really stressed out. And they're like, something's going on. And I snapped and I went, it is none of your business. And they just knew something was going on. They just said, can I pray for you? And like, it was as though if you could have seen like the thought bulb in my head, again, lines like, of course. And in my head, it was like, why bother? Like, I have been praying and I've either like made God so mad or like he just doesn't, I'm back burner right now. I don't know. But I've been pleading that something changes and nothing's changing and I'm going to die here. And something about the prayer, I joke, but like, you know, those times where you're crying so big that's mostly out of your nose and not really out of your eyes. It was one of those. I was like, and you're just like, ugh. And I was, you know, and I just said it, but I finally was like, I'm just scared to go home. It was like a whisper. And then they were so smart. They were just like, okay, what else? I was like, I'm scared to go home a lot. Okay, what else? They just kept saying like, okay, what else? Okay, who do we call? It's like, no one. We can't call him. It's like, no, we're just like, maybe take one baby step at a time. And that was basically the exposing of what was going on. My dad, who was in Massachusetts at the time, is an attorney, got me at least out and away within 24 hours, got him, my ex, out of the situation within 48 hours. And then like that friend, they invited me to church and they were like, I really would like you to come to like where I go to church. Like the worship's really, really freeing. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like God like lent me a life raft, but like, I don't know if I belong on the cruise ship sort of thing. Yeah. No, I walked in those doors and everyone there was like, this is what God's grace is. Like, it was always meant for you. Never had to work for it. You never had to fix anything. That was never your job. And I don't know why you thought that like love was something you got at the end of a race, but that's not love. So then I was just completely reintroduced to love and who Jesus was, and like that the Holy Spirit is he's our advocate. And I was like, I have someone who goes to the throne for me, like when I don't even have the words to say. I mean, when you say like rocked, like my world was rocked, I literally was like sometimes like hearing the gospel just spoken differently and was like, if this is for real, like if this is actually true, this changes everything. Like, and I don't even know what to do with my life anymore, like, because I don't have to earn anything. And so that's when I was like, I want to get baptized. I'm going to explain this idea of baptism, that it's the burial of your old life and the birth of your new life. And I was like, I am all about new, and also please bury that. Like, I want, you know, I don't want it to be attached to any of that anymore. And I wish I could have, like you said, like, man, if I'd made this decision when I was in 4th grade, what would my life look like? I'm like, God, I wish that was true. And in baptism it is. Like, no, when you're born again, you're new. Like, everything's new. So I got baptized, and then I turned down every single job offer that I had. I was like, I want to go serve. Like, I want to make $0. I want to earn nothing. I want to just go love on people, and for nothing. Like, just because I felt like I had just been hooked up to every IV possible and was like fully hydrated in the Word. Was like, okay, if this is really love, like I actually need to get to know love, like, and I have to get to know the Word. So I got my own Bible that wasn't King James version, and like read it myself, and was in touch with a couple women from that church. And
I always tell if there's someone's not I like the NLT, the New Living Translation.
Yes, and NLT, ESV, yes.
Just especially, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, I mean, it's like, just like, it makes it so much more palatable.
It does.
So those two, like there were two women in particular, the app Voxer, I was like, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? And between that book, or the Bible, Redeeming Love and Captivating, that really helped me on the beginning of my healing journey from everything that happened, to the point of like actually being able to forgive my ex, which was hard. And once I understood the weight of that word forgiveness, I wanted to make sure every time I said it, I meant it. Same thing with the word love. Like when you say the word love, like there's significance and weight to that. So just make sure that you mean it. And, you know, so when our court hearing happened for our divorce to finalize it, he let me know in the elevator, I forgive you for this. And I was like, okay, interesting. And I said, I'm going to let you know when I do, because I don't know if I can say that fully yet. And it hit me one day on my mission trip. I was like, oh my gosh, like that, like I don't want any part of that. Like that's gone. Like that bitterness, that twinge is gone. And then I went through this, you know, wonderful season of feeling totally healed and also disassociating with everything that had happened.
Yeah, I've experienced that.
Yes, and
then it comes back.
And
like,
it comes
not yet.
back. Yes,
I
yes.
thought I was all healed.
I thought I was good.
Yes.
What is this doing here?
Lots of life advice, and I'm
oh my
not
gosh,
as well
yes.
and healthy as I thought I was.
Right. So there is an element that I've learned, like, yes, you can heal from it, and also you can see what God did in it and say, like, you know, I don't have to identify with that, but if I ignore that it ever happened, I'm missing out on the story. Imagine if the woman with the issue of blood had been like, no, we don't, let's just not talk about that. Like, I got the healing, I touched the fringe of his coat, can we just not, I'm open, and I'm out here, I sell, you know, hand handkerchiefs and pots. I don't know what she would have done after that, but like, I'm a different woman, so can we just talk about this woman? Yes, we can, but can we also see, like, our testimonies aren't about ourselves, they're about like the work that God does, and like how big his love is, and how far reaching his love goes, and how no one is too far gone ever.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate, that we all like that no one's too far gone.
So you know, I found myself not knowing how to speak up for myself when I was finally negotiating a contract. You know, when I experienced some things in the workplace that were nothing was ever abusive, but certain things were like, this is just inappropriate, like, you know, yelling at a coworker, like having a tantrum, like this is just inappropriate, you know. Even postpartum, like when my husband and I met, being able to go back to work and say, I can work these hours, I just need to be able to pump like these times, and not being given those times. Like, I didn't have I was like so afraid, like, but if I don't, then I'm not going to be seen as valuable, and like, you know, the lies just came back. Like, so what I've told people recently is, like, I definitely was safe after I got out of that relationship, but I wasn't fully free because I never learned to use my voice. I've been a practitioner for 13 years now, and just woman after woman comes into our clinic, and now our team knows who to send me in with specifically. Like, I think this is a Dr. T. Is what I've never introduced myself as that, but I've just been like gifted that name Dr. at every office I've been to. I'm like, do I walk around with like giant chains and a mohawk? Like, is that my vibe? So this is a Dr. T patient. And they'll say that, like, I think she needs to go in, and whether it's the level of agitation or the level of, like, withdrawn, you follow the breadcrumbs and you ask the right questions, and you say, okay, great, I understand that, you know, either you're confused, you're hurt, maybe you're not giving me any information. When I ask enough questions, it's almost 10 out of 10 times, like, there's some history of abuse. I'm like, yeah, we silence ourselves, we push past it, or we're still in it. Yeah. And
I can relate, and it's hard. And it's like, I've been like, while you've been speaking, I've been like, as you know, I've been like almost internally praying, like, what should I share and not share? But like, those were close to me. So my husband died this past December, was 7 years ago, but we had a very tumultuous relationship. We got together young, got married, got divorced, had 2 more children. We had a lot of problems, and in 2016, I did file like restraining orders, and I did document in 2016. Like, this is public record, but it's nothing I don't ever speak on it. This is actually, I've never spoken on it publicly, you know. And I did document, like, if he doesn't get, at the time, Baker acted or arrested, he's gonna kill me or kill him. So like, this is, and he was an attorney, and he'd always self-represent. and I was always just kind of viewed as like I was crazy. And then I had actually, and I love him, and it's very, very difficult to speak about because I'm in the process of reconciling with his family, and he's dead, so I wanted to be very careful of like what I say. Like I want to speak truth, but also I was also sick at the time. I'm on prescription pills and I was not, but I ended up getting a relocation to North Dakota with our 3 children through the Duval County. Like it was fine, he was going to stay here. This is after the restraining order had been, it wasn't Phil because he would represent himself and just and then he ended up following me to North Dakota, like with the job, following me there, and it was difficult. And then he died in December. It's still, they wrote it as suicide. It's still a lot of speculation of what happened, but and it's something like I did experience. It was really hard times where I did think like possibly like I wasn't gonna make it, but it's very difficult for me to speak about. Then even I just in court documents I never was public, to try to protecting the kids, and it's also hard because I have such a love for him, and now he's passed, and I don't want to speak ill because he's not here to defend himself,
sure.
or so I don't want to. I mean, I can just say that there is record that this is what I believed happened. There is record in 2016. I filed. Things there is record in court of Duval County that I did move. There is record. If you look it up, that a judge, we did a second thing, anger management. There's records of these things. So it's hard because I never speak about it. And I actually publicly always speak really positively of him and try to remember him really positively. But when you're sharing that, it kind of like brought back a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to talk about. Because maybe this will get cut tomorrow. I might be like, this shouldn't go public. But, it's also hard because I don't know if I should say this, but it's like because he's passed, I'm no longer afraid. So it's very easy to remember all the really positive, and he's all the really good positive things because there's nothing, to fear. So
I think that's one of the hard things with, when there's partners who are who experience domestic violence, whether it's or I should say even just domestic abuse, because there's mental and emotional abuse that people will not report. And
just to interrupt, just in case his family or somebody there is court records.
When you look biblically at what men, the Lord asks men to love women, and the Lord asks women to respect men. And when one steps out of that alignment, it doesn't open up the door to say, okay, great, so we're just stepping away from that calling on both of our lives. And it's really hard to, one, have those adult expectations on children, or even preteens and teens. And they're just figuring out life with these hormonal surges. But that's when people start dating and they start having these independent relationships and making these pretty bigger life decisions. But if someone doesn't teach you how to speak up the right way and just stand with it, all I need to do is stand with the truth, and that is enough, and that is okay, and I will be believed. Then all of a sudden you have this, I don't know if I should speak, when I do speak. How do you get
people to believe? Because I feel like my experience was people didn't really believe me, and because I had experience where someone was he's an attorney, very charismatic, that I came across as the crazy one.
Sure. Well, so attorneys will be making cases for themselves. So that's a different conversation in and of itself. It's almost okay, you have to pretend they're just looking for ways to make things up and fabricate. And again, my dad's an attorney, so I say that with all due respect. But if your job is to make a case for your client, you're going to take any ounce of truth and just say, we can look at this through any lens and make it whatever we want. But when it comes to I need to be believed. I was actually talking to my daughter about this. There's someone at school, a girl who has bullied her in the past, and I said, when this happens, what do you say? She's like, well, I'm worried that they won't believe me. I said, then you need to tell them this sentence. You need to go to a teacher and say, this happened. I was, someone just pushed me, someone just hit me. And if they say, okay, well, go back in line and say, no, I need to feel safe. One, you teach children that they are allowed to say what they need. I need to feel safe. And if an adult's saying I'm sure it's fine, I'm sure they didn't mean to, then they need to recognize that's a grown-up not doing their job. A grown-up's job, who's in a teacher position, who's in a babysitter position, who's in a family position, who's in a pastoral position. It's your job to keep kids safe if you're working with kids. And so then the follow-up is, then I need a grown-up who's going to believe me. I need a safe grown-up who's going to believe me. I said, if you ever say that on campus, especially the schools he goes to, then a teacher will say, I'm sorry, wait, what did you say? Because it happens. Like, I mean, it happens to me all of a sudden. I agreed to let the kids watch a movie. I didn't know that was happening. I was making chicken and I had the laundry going and I was thinking about today's plans and I had someone like, can we watch this? Yeah, yep, that's fine. And then I went, guys, why are you watching TV? You said we could. We asked you. I'm like, oh. No, I totally just went on autopilot. I can see it happening, so I want to give credit to very busy, very overworked, teachers. But it does happen a lot. Coaches, like I'm sure well, if a child says, I need a safe adult, who's going to believe me? Then like, what is it? Hopefully they'll say, what does that mean? Or, okay, go talk to the guidance.
Yes. That's something like I would, kids. If a child says it, okay, wait a second.
Right, it takes you back, like, what do you mean?
Yeah, of course, because everyone wants to make a child feel safe. So
right.
I need a safe
I need a safe grown-up who will believe me. Like, okay, what does that mean? One, that the child has been educated. And so, like, the parents most likely will, I don't care if you call me a Karen or what. Like, I will teach my children how to advocate for themselves, because if it comes from their mouth as close to the incident as possible, it is easier to do something about it. And then you do have to get parents involved, because sometimes kids do describe things differently. Sometimes kids will tell a story 3 different ways. I know that there's a lot of push for like teach kids anatomical parts correctly. Like, okay, great, but what happens if it's not like inappropriate essay touching? What happens if it's just I felt uncomfortable, I felt unsafe.
Like a vibe,
exactly.
We all have intuitions, and children can feel like there's something wrong. This person's making me feel a certain way.
And you see this age group, like 6 to 9 years old. You're not a little kid, you're not a teenager or even preteen yet, but you're big enough where if you're a girl and a boy is making like an aggressive face at you, like, I don't like that. But they're still treated like they're in the 3 to 5-year-old camp. Like, we get along, we're friends. No, guys, do not force a child to go back to a situation where they don't feel safe. They're allowed to say, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. I want to talk to a safe adult who will believe me. Like, okay, what does that mean? That means you have a conversation, you can explain, and then maybe the adult can say, okay, sounds like Timmy's having a really bad day. Please just stay away from him. I will talk to him. Timmy, fix your face. Whatever it is. Or like, hey, you just, let's let the teacher know, like, hey, it seems like whenever Timmy's having a hard time, Timmy's hungry, he, makes people feel uncomfortable, or like he, has a hard moment.
Work on Timmy.
Yeah, poor Timmy. So there's letting kids know though that when they have that gut check, that Holy Spirit gut check, like listen to that.
I'm glad that you call it the Holy Spirit, because that's what I
yes,
that is the Holy Spirit.
It 100%. That's actually what prompted me to write the second book. So the
okay, let's talk about
okay. The Love Garden was yes. So this was an opportunity for me to like really take on. So back up a little bit. My husband Matthew and we met on the mission trip. I was doing youth ministry at that same church I came back to. I took a job paid terribly, but I was like, I want to be around somewhere where my heart can grow, and like where I know at least the Lord will lead me to my next step. Like, money will come, but like the amount of days I have on the earth, I don't know how many they are. I just need to be watered. So I went back and I volunteered a ton at this church, worked in student ministry on a very volunteer basis. I was not a student pastor, like, at all. I was just the girl who's like, I'll bring the snacks, I'll sing at worship, like, whatever. And there was, so much that these kids were going through. So much. I mean, they went to a Christian school. That does not mean anything in terms of what you're exposed to, what you go through, bullying, breaking rules, all the things.
Yeah, we were pretty mischievous.
I mean, I'm like, you're exposed.
I dated the pastor's son. And
it's all nuts. So I was like, God, I shared my testimony with these kids, and I remember telling the pastor, I was like, hey, just this is my testimony, and I was like, there was physical abuse, there was sexual abuse, but it started with mental and emotional abuse, and it crept up the ladder. I said, now, in my ex-husband's eyes, I was like, he didn't think it was possible for a husband to rape his wife, because he was like, his words were, that's my property. Like, that's not rape, it's just, that's mine to take. I was like, I disagree, and if I'm saying stop or no, that means stop and no. But after being around these teens for a year and a half, I was like, they can handle it. They're living these big themes they're surrounded by, and they have tons of questions they're not asking their parents.
Yes.
And so I told my testimony to the teens one night, and it was wild, like how many guys were engaged and how many girls were engaged. I was like, okay. And it wasn't like it was not the way I delivered it. It was a grown-up just being like real and raw and vulnerable. I mean, like, things got real and you are out of control and you don't realize you are. And when you think that either God is good and he's always good and that means my life is great, or there is no God and like, or he doesn't love me, like all of a sudden you just become bitter and hard and you can't hear his voice anymore. And so I knew that this was a theme I was going to have to tell my kids at some point. I'm like, I got to tell my kids this story, because a lot of these kids, it hit them, and for the ones who it impacted them, it's because they already shared a story similar to mine in some capacity. And not to say that it's too late, but it's like, what preventatively could have been done, as a chiropractor. I always think in terms of preventative medicine. Like, what, again, let's go backwards and say, well, where did that habit start? Or where did that belief start? And I was like, yeah, a lot of it starts with like, do I know who I am? And when I was confused, what was my go-to? Was it shut it down, or was it, no, I can stand on the truth and I know that someone will believe me or someone will help guide me through this. So
what is your advice, or like it's an advocate, so how do we stop this from happening? Or what is your opinion, or you've done all this research, is it at the beginning, like first sign, get out, or what is the solution?
So I mean, ideally it's complicated when there's kids involved, for sure. But ideally, if you're, it starts with friendships. If you can start with kids and what is friendships, and my friend does this, and then sometimes do that. Like, okay, well, if your friend does that, you're allowed to say like, I love you. I'm not going to play with you when you're like that. Also making sure you yourself are creating good boundaries and creating an environment of grace for your child. When you get to, high school and there's like gossip and dating, like, okay, great. But just understand when there's dating, there's lines that are crossed. When, like, do you feel heard? Do you feel pressured? What are those sorts of things? And then when it's a woman who's in a relationship, whether it's a superior at work or, an intimate, relationship that they're a part of, they're like, what do I do? What are my first steps? Like, you have to be safe first, like number one. And the biggest deterrent is financial independence. And that has been very, very hard. Like, what do I do? I don't have any skills. Sure. And that's a chip that people, or the carrot that their abusers will hold over them. You'll never be able to afford yourself. You go ahead and try to take the kids. You're going to be living on that.
Yeah, you have no house. You're
exactly. And a lot of times at that point, there's already been such isolation in the relationship, isolation from other friends and family.
Yes.
And I was one of those. I was so isolated from my friends and family, not just by distance, but you just work so hard to defend them, to defend the relationship, to make it right. You're like, what? But I wasn't.
And when you have children, you don't want the world or the people to know.
Oh my God, absolutely not. Nope. Yeah. I was like, no, I have to, everyone has to know, like, Tiffany's a hard worker. She's trustworthy. She makes good choices. And like, what is this going to say about my decision making? For sure. So you have to realize that, like, one, your children see it all. They see it. I mean, infants excluded, but like, they do. More is caught than is taught. And so if you're trying to teach your kids this, like, don't ever accept this, and like, blah, 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 then they see you continue to return to the same situation. It is lip service at that point. Like you do. Exactly. And similarly with neglect, like if you see someone who's trying to like overly work for something, you're going to have the same pattern repeat historically. When your children can be anchored in, like, I know how to ask for help, and I know what I'm taking care of and when I'm not. The hard part is when they don't have that at home. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say.
Really, really hard. So that's when our teachers are frontline, defenders in this. In 2020, when there was lockdowns and all kids were going to home, we had our business didn't shut down, and we had a lot of law enforcement officers come in, and we'd ask, how come we praying for you? He's like, you need to be praying for the kids in this county. He said, since lockdowns, we've had almost no reports of child abuse. And I was like, oh, isn't that a good thing? He's like, tons of our reports come from teachers. He's like, we don't have anyone catching it. He's like, and we know it's happening. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. I just remember, like, my stomach dropped. It's like, I can't be okay with this. So when teachers, educators, I mean, you could work in the cafeteria and be serving mashed potatoes, and you have an effective spot front line too. Actually, lunchroom is like where a ton of stuff is visible because they're not focusing on anything. That's their time to decompress. Yes. And just picking up on these like nonverbal communication styles, and even just understanding who the kids are, building relationships with these kids throughout the year. You see them when you see big changes in children, whether it's like complete withdrawal or complete acting out or promiscuous sorts of behavior. You can almost always guarantee something happened. Like, that's a triggering event. If someone goes from being, whether they're social, whether they're like they're kind of on the timid side, to then all of a sudden like semi-rebellious, like, okay, something happened that made you say I need to be in control, or if something happened to me, then I want to make sure that I'm the only one in charge of my body. And it hurts less knowing something happened to me like in a physical manner if I am physical with whomever I want. So it's a really common show.
Like, probably take control of my body. So
100%.
Now I can do whatever because it's been taken. So now I'm. Yeah.
Yes. Rapid weight gain is another one. A lot of people, especially boys, that will see that in boys is like a rapid onset weight gain. Like, there's something they're trying to protect. Like, if I can just protect myself and almost make myself less desirable, then I'm safe. And that's why men who have I have decades and decades of I can't get my weight under control, will ask more questions, and sometimes it says it can feel as, it can seem benign, like, oh, it was a stupid moment in the locker room, that it was a prank. But if a young man feels violated, he feels violated, and he felt unsafe. When kids don't understand what to do with confusion, and especially when trusted adults or safe adults take their confusion and they sweep it under the carpet, or they say it's fine or it's normal, every confusing moment, that's exactly what they tell themselves I can do. Like, it's normal. It's like, this is part of growing up, instead of saying like, that should not have happened. That was wrong. Like, there was an incident with an adult in my daughter's life, and she crossed a line, and the people in her above her in their position, when I found out about it, I sent emails and I was like, there's no way this actually happened. And I got email back, yes, we found out that did happen. And I said, okay, well, I'm gonna come in and talk to someone about this. And I got an apology from from everyone above that person. I said, that's great. My daughter needs to be apologized to by the person, and she needs to know that it was wrong. Like, I need her to close the loop on this the right way, and not just like, I know that sucks that happened, or wow, what a terrible thing. Like, nope, we're going to call out wrong. We're going to call out, and you're going to watch mommy and daddy forgive that person. Because, I mean, it wasn't to the point where it wasn't as extreme as what people might be imagining right now as they're listening to this, but it was enough where I was like, this could be. I'm
thinking about how healthy you sound. I'm like, me, my husband with our kids, our both families, like, we're all like dark humor, the most crazy things, like, we be. Like, I'm just listening. I'm like, I have a lot of work to do, because like, I'd be saying the same story and laughing, and like, not. I mean,
it's, and that's just it. Like,
I have very dark humor.
Not to say that I don't. What's funny is there's been enough things in my head. No, my husband hears.
Is like, look who I brought you. This is.
No, my husband hears all of my dark humor jokes.
Really looks like.
Oh, well, no, big journey to go on. And what that was actually really funny was, my advocacy for my child was what brought out the, like, you aren't done, Tiff, with yourself. In me wanting to, I wanted so badly for my daughter to have a voice. I was like, you will not shut her up. You're not like, why is that so triggering for you? Like, that's one thing my mom taught me, is if you're super, like, triggered, this is before triggered was like a hot word, ask yourself, what does the situation or the person remind you of? And I'm like, it's the fact that
and you couldn't speak. And
I
you wanna make
couldn't
sure that
speak.
Your daughter can speak.
And
sure.
I still, in instances, didn't feel like I could.
Mm-hmm.
I was in this loss, like I'm, postpartum mom of 3. My hours changed at the
Mm-hmm.
office. I was so used to being like the hot, like not hot, like cute, but like the one, like I was like lead diagnostician.
Mm-hmm.
I was the one who, like, yep, you can ask me any question, I will find the answer, and like I know how I can move any bone. Like I was like, no, my skills are top, whatever. I'm just like pride is what it was, honestly. And then changing to mom status was exactly what I wanted. Why one of the reasons I didn't go into obstetrics. But then I switched to mom, and I was like, no, I want to be 100% both. I want to be considered full-time and like at work and full-time mom. Yeah. And it was actually my therapist who was like, you realize you're asking for 48 hours in a day, and that's not what God created. And I was like, so you're super right. And I was like, and I'm staring down the barrel of pride. And she was like, if you want to call it that, you can. And this woman's Yoda. And so I was just like, okay, I can always go back to being a doctor. Like my kids are only going to be little ones. Mm-hmm. And I'm their only mom. So I was like, and anyone can find another doctor. Like really, they can. Yes. And so that's when I didn't know how to have a voice at the office. Mm-hmm. And honestly, because our office was what my husband and I built and dreamt of and like journaled when we were dating. And
how long have you guys had it for?
So we've had Thrive for 8 years.
Okay, congratulations. That's amazing.
Yes, and we've been married 10.
Okay, nice.
And that first year was, he was still finishing school. Actually, he was still finishing school when we were married. But we were just, just dreaming, like tons of dreams, and then we saw it come to fruition. It felt like a baby, honestly. And then I was like, but I'm letting go of that. It feels like I'm letting go of a piece of my relationship, and I didn't know how, and I was still like almost fighting for a voice there. I was like, I kept feeling silenced by, and it was just the situation. But I, either by him or by, patients, like, oh, she's just part-time now. She's not really here anymore. I'm like, I am so here. Yeah. No, I matter. I matter. I was like, okay, hold on. What is this hurt all coming from? Clearly, I can stick up for my kid, no problem, and I can like fight for meeting after meeting to make sure she's got what she needs.
And advocate for her.
Yeah, but I still have no idea how to do this. And the reason actually I was working with therapists at the time was I was still having nightmares with my ex in them, and I was like, this has been like so stinking. It's been 13 years. Like I don't even know where he is in the world anymore. Yeah. Like, or anyone related to him. It's like and then it hit me. I was like, I've counseled women. Mm-hmm. I've had behind closed doors conversations about this. I've never once said his name. And I never once come out publicly, like with the fact that I've, gone through a divorce, and that I had been abused, and like the extent of the abuse. And it was this January that I looked at my husband and I was like, I am still afraid of him. I'm afraid that if I say it, he'll come after us. I was like, you have no idea how intense it got at the end. It's like even the phone call. Yeah. We were in separate states when I called him and said, I need you to know my dad's going to handle the paperwork, but I'm, at that point I still thought we could get annulled.
That's when women are the most likely to get killed, is in the process of leaving.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. It's very, very dangerous time.
Very. I mean, he threatened to Baker Act me over the phone from Massachusetts, and he punched a hole in the wall at his parents' house. And it was like, if I had had that conversation face to face, I don't know what would have happened. But again, we were states apart, so I felt safe enough to have it. But I was like, if I come forward with this and someone sends him a link to something and I was like, and that's why I never learned to fully speak up for myself. And it's not that I am a shy person or super introverted, because like I said, I would share my testimony behind closed doors with someone who maybe needed to hear, like, I walked through it too, and you can be safe, and here's proper steps to take. And I was like, no,
I mean, it's really brave you did that, because even with you sharing this, like right now, I don't know if I'm going to allow it to go my part, but a lot of it too is I have a fear, because after he died, his family all blamed me for his death, whether suicide or homicide, no matter what, because we had a tumultuous, I was to blame for his death. And then I lost custody of my children. My children are still with his families. So I felt a very big pressure to make sure that, like, I only speak well and try to make sure that everything is, like, positive, because not only did all these things happen, now all of a sudden, like the trauma, everything I went through, now he's dead, now my children are taken, now everyone's saying she's the causation of his death. So then I've now the last 7.5 years been like kind of protective, like he's perfect, he's great, we had a loving, everything was great, everything I love, which I do, but it's even now I'm fearful because I'm trying to reconcile with the family to speak ill of him and his death. It's really hard, that's why I'm afraid right
I mean,
now.
red tape and bureaucracy is what your situation's so unique. And the thing is, like, with that situation, both are true. Like, the sin and the abuse happened. And there were loving moments. Like, I was not previously married to the devil. Like, that's not the truth. So for me to be like, it was that, did I live in hell? Yeah. But, like, it was because of choices. And there was serious demonic, like, oppression or possession.
No,
I don't know which one. But, like, there was something that, brought me into that initially. And that's why I'm like, no, I speak about, like, the abuse and the isolated situations only. Like, for me to say, like, everything was, I'm like,
no, and that's where it's hard. And I was I mean, like
exactly.
I wasn't like a little wallflower, that was, but
right. It's really,
difficult.
really
and
tricky.
It's so hard too because he's passed, so I don't have a fear, but I also too like it's just that's why I was earlier like just there are there's documentation.
Yes.
Even I mean the DCF documentation. They actually when they took the kids, which was wild, they tried to have there was a lot going on, but one was that I had allowed the children to be, and we have the records, viewed to that I had allowed them or I hadn't protected them from viewing domestic violence. And then even when I ended up losing custody in the divorce, or not the DCF, but even under oath, they're asking me, I was like, what do you, I tried, I did, like, I don't know, and he was he was an attorney, and now even in his death, they were trying to say that I had allowed them to view, and I'm like, I don't know what more.
Like, we didn't get on a stage and say, like, ready, set, action.
And then I really tried to, the whole time really until today's, if I, like, don't cut all the personal things out. This is the first time I've ever, and even in the court things, I tried so hard, just for my kids' sake too. I know my oldest remembers things, but it's like I want to have a good, and also too, like, I mean, there were times like I was really, really fearful in my life, but now I'm here. So it's also I'm just trying to like it's a hard with the circumstances.
That's a very, very hard circumstance because yes, you have the safety of hindsight right now. So to put yourself back in that position and answer questions in that place, it's not the same, and you can't ever get back to that headspace. Praise God.
Yes.
But like that there. For me, there was a 12-year-old me that was scared of 12-year-old things, and there was an 8-year-old me that was scared of 8-year-old things.
Yes.
There's a 38-year-old me that's scared of 38-year-old things. Having different responsibilities. What we're privy to, what we're responsible for, and what we're exposed to, give us the lens in which like we hold weight of moments. And without the proper framework of being anchored to something, wherever you are in any age, whether you're 3 or like 43, like that's what gets kids super confused. Like, I have nothing to anchor this moment to, or nothing to say like this just feels wrong. One of the reasons I wrote the book was like, and
what age group is this book
so
for?
This book is for we're seeing. It's for all kids. Like, it's really like kids 6 and up, like really like 8 and up really enjoy it. I've had some moms, they're reading to their kids very, very young. The younger you read it, the more the deep stuff goes over the kids' heads. But the more you read it, you realize like there's intentional language that when what's going on, like in the story, it's a whole allegory of God trusting a girl with a garden and saying like, just make this as beautiful as you want it to be. I know how much you love me. And so she does, and she loves singing, and she's building, and she allows this man to come in and help her with it, and he's trying to help, and he's like, God, will you stop singing? Like, and he realizes she'll never love him the way he loves a garden, and the garden's just work, and it's just a lot, and he burns everything, and so she's just left like, I don't know what to do. I feel lost. I feel broken. This was supposed to be me, like a reflection of me.
Yes.
And so she's like, I'm going to build it strong. I'm going to build, and it doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to be so strong. So then all of a sudden she starts building these huge walls and is like, what else is strong? Oh, thorns are strong. They'll keep bad things out. And then she focuses on that, and, you know, person after person comes to try and help, and they're just like, I don't know. This is really far gone. And the right person comes.
She began to wonder if God was disappointed in her. She began to wonder if God even still cared about her.
Yep. And I mean, that was a real thought I had. I was like, I don't even know if he sees me. And then it was like, when you had the right person come into my life, and sometimes that's a person. And so there's no names in the book at all, but and the man can be like, one for me, it was kind of like Holy Spirit, and also my husband. But also like the strong man in this is shown to, like, this is what discipline is. And also, like, for my son, I wrote it intentionally. I put a lot of descriptors in there for my son to say, like, this is a disciplined man, like, listens to God, and a strong man listens to God. He appreciates discipline, and he works hard, even when it's inconvenient, with no promise in it for himself. You just keep listening to the Lord. And then she gets, like, the song back in her heart at the end, and she realizes she can trust again, which is big. So this is what I used.
I love this scripture too. And I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit I will put in you, and I will remove the heart of stone from you and give you a heart of flesh.
That was when I walked into that church and realized like what love was, I could feel like that melting away. And so this is what I used to share my testimony with my daughter. And I was so nervous to share it with her. I'd never told her before. And it was after I wrote this. And
how old are your children?
So I have an 8, she's almost 9, 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Okay.
And we have what I call backpack conversations, or suitcase conversations. And, you know, they'll ask questions and big questions. And I said, that's a really good question. That's a really heavy question. So that I'll put in mommy's suitcase. But, you know, when we travel, you have your backpack you're in charge of and your little carry-on. I can give you a version of that conversation that we can fit in there. But just know there's going to be a bigger conversation we'll have later, and you're going to learn more about that. So I addressed that, like, you see something, like, whether it's, you know, we're in Target in Pride Month, and they're like, what is that? What is that, a boy or a girl? And I'm like, okay, great. It's fair. You see something that you're confused about, and you ask the right person, and I can have an answer for you. I'm like, okay, this is a bigger, heavier suitcase conversation. Like, I wouldn't ask you to put my heavy suitcase above the, you know, the seat in an airplane, but I would ask you to hold your backpack. And so I'd say, okay, what does God say we have? We have a man and a woman, and some people, they choose differently. But, you know, in our family, we listen to what God says, right? Right. Okay, so that's what I need you to hold. That's what's true, and that's what you can put in your backpack. So I kind of phrase a lot of those questions, even, you know, when they see someone who might look different than them. Like, what is that? Okay, yep, let's have those conversations. Like, is it a backpack conversation? Like, no, it's just like, please don't ask me, like, why someone's missing teeth in public. You know what I mean? Like, so just calm down. But this idea of this book was really awesome because it allowed me to have this conversation I was so afraid to have with my 8-year-old at the time. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like it's gonna tear her apart knowing that I was previously married. I had never shared that with her. I'm like, I don't know how, because I don't want her to think that there's anything wrong with me and Daddy's relationship, or like that it's ever. So my husband sat down with me, I read her the book, and I said, I need you to know, like, mommy's the girl in the story. And that did happen to my heart. And and she took the allegory of the burning down. She's like, someone lit your house on fire. I was like, no, hold on. Metaphor, this is what a metaphor is. And she's like, okay, got it. And I said, no, but he didn't burn down my house. I said, but it was like my heart got burned down. And I said, I had to rebuild that. I said, and I actually got divorced. I said, it was very dangerous. It was very unsafe. Am I going to talk about rape with her? No. But she can know that boundaries were crossed. I was not safe. I chose to stay there, and then I chose to isolate myself in that, and it was dark and it was heavy, and those
isolation is the worst.
Seriously, and that's what enemy can attack you in isolation over and over again.
100%.
So she loved girls tend to like this book more. And my son he liked the idea of the strong man, but the depth of it, and he was 5 at the time, he's now 6. He wasn't quite grasping it, and that's when I was like, okay, hold on, there's another conversation here. Yes.
Is that when you did the other
That's
one?
when I made the other one, and so that one came
the
golden no.
And when did you write this one?
This one I wrote this year.
Okay, so talk about this one.
So this one, here we go.
We'll still show it like on a screen, but I'll also.
This one just got published this week, so I was like, I don't have any hard copies. So
Very cool.
it's very sweet. And it is written more for like 3 to 5 year olds because that age group is so aware. I'm like, if they can quote back their favorite line from a show, they can quote back family rules. You're teaching them how to stop, drop, and roll. They can learn how to tell you when something went wrong, with if a boundary is being crossed or if they feel uncomfortable. So this one talks a lot about how this little boy Cooper, he loves yes. He's like, I wish everything was yes. Yes, I can do this. Yes, you can have this. You can. Yeah. I hate no, and he's like, he hates this idea of no, as every 3 and 5 year old does. Yes. Like, rules stink or whatever. And then all of a sudden he realizes he needs to use no to keep himself feeling safe. A friend, like the coolest friend on the block with like the best sneakers, and Sam's like, hey, I want to show you this, and he shows him a phone. He says, something inside me felt funny. And I remembered Mom and Dad said, like, the Holy Spirit was supposed to protect me. Is this the Holy Spirit protecting me? And the illustrations on this one are so sweet. But I forgot to mention, shout out, my aunt actually did all the illustrations. Oh, very cool. Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. She gave me all the. We had the publishers, illustrators, do this one, so it's more like, it looks kind of more Pixar style. Yeah. Again, my 3 and 5 year olds like it. Yes. But he, goes through a couple different trials where he has to like say no, and his parents sit down with him and tell him like, you did the right thing. When kids understand that in God's kingdom, his yes and his no weigh the same. Yeah. They're both good. Because a lot of times kids and even adults think, like, adults too. Yes, even like we hear no. Yeah, like if you hear no from God, that's good. If God says it, it's good no matter what.
And even like the rules are to protect us.
Exactly. So I'm like, there's this idea that like I want a yes from God. Like you want whatever He says. Yes. Whatever it is. Like, and because there are times where like you need to know the power of no yourself. So he learns the power of no, and he's like, oh my gosh, no is good too. And so then he's like, I love no, and he kind of sees that. And the illustration's really sweet because, again, little Pixar boy, and you see this like glowing dove on his shirt. It's really, really cute. And my son loved that one. He's like, that's good. So yeah, so he, yes, I was like, okay, got my target demographic. Because they, I mean, it's also written conversational, like, hey, my name's Cooper. Do you like this? I like this. And so just the quotable lines when they have those lines back. So how does people purchase these books? They're on Amazon. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we'll make sure to have like links and show. Yeah. And then for the She Speaks, do you like? I know that what Katie's here. Yeah. She said that there was an engagement. So do people hire if they are interested in having? This has been super informative. Yeah. And I could talk to you for hours. Truly. But like, so somebody wants you to speak or wants to learn from you. How do they reach you? So my Instagram is Mrsdrtiffany. So Mrsdrtiffany. And I have a couple of free. Just some free resources there to start with kids who are like in preschool. Like here's just some fun things like games that you can play with your kids. Then I have kind of the next round up, and then I also have stuff for women who are like just learning how to advocate for themselves in the medical world, because that's where we see a lot of medical gaslighting, and that kind of trails into abuse. I don't know how to advocate for myself because I don't know how to use my voice. So there's a lot of free resources in there. And then, I do speaking engagements, whether it's at a bookstore, Bible studies. So do people just DM you on Instagram? Yep. And this year, I'm not charging anything. I just want to get out there and talk. Yep. And then what about for the chiropractor? Oh, we're at Thrive Health Center in Jacksonville. Okay. And we work a lot with a lot of different women. I feel like women get put into boxes super, super fast instead of listened to. So I personally like working with what are considered more complicated cases. And it's not that they're more complicated, they just have more layers. And because truly every body is very complicated, and we're just trying. And some people luck out and find something that works one time, but that same thing might not work for them later down the road. But right now, the speech and engagements you're doing for gratis? Yes, gratis, as you say. Yes. My mother's Swedish, and gratis is also free in Swedish. Oh, no way. Okay, yes. In Spanish, it's gratis. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, all right. And then, so we have this, and then what about, I always ask everyone 2 things. One is like, you can do scripture too, but your favorite quote or script, anything that you like kind of go by for others. So I love, that verse is so meaningful. In Romans 8,
Romans 8.
Yes, Romans 8:28.
28. That God uses everything for good.
For those who love Him. There's there's a song, I think it's Big Daddy Weave who sings it, and it's Let Them See You and Me. It's like I can't remember the title, but I know that's the line. And I have said for the longest time, I'm like, yes, I'd love for these books and a couple others in the future to come out and just have the legacy. As like, but the whole point and the reason why I didn't use my name in there, as I'm like, I want people to see like God in me and God in my story.
That's
and
how I feel too. And even like I try to say follower of Jesus.
Yeah,
I'm a Christian, but
yes.
Like I follow because I'm just like, don't follow me because I'm going. But just like my experience is Jesus, and I have a different experience where I've lived in Jesus since I was a little girl. I never not believe, like I've been a Christian since I can remember. And even when people sometimes now will be like, I'm glad you found God, and it's like, no, when like my kids were taking Milton, like Jesus is all I had, like, and for sure. So I know, without a shadow of a doubt, like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my relationship with Jesus. And I know every single person can leave me or turn their back because I experienced that and Jesus held me.
Oh my gosh.
So I know that He's real. So that's where I'm always just like, follow Jesus, get a Bible, read, like do that, because don't follow me because I'm still, and my story's rugged and not pretty, and I'm still, going through it. But
we're all
like,
in process.
Jesus.
No,
He's the way, He's the truth, He's the light.
So true. But like that's just it. Like we are all in process. Like it's hilarious.
And I feel like the enemy tries to do more when I try to say more Jesus.
Oh my gosh.
It's more like temptation
100%.
to like go crazy.
100%. Yes, because
so then
you're
he's like, look at that crazy girl.
Right. And he's like, oh, she's so too big, too loud. Like anything that the Lord has for you to use for His kingdom, the enemy's gonna be like, oh, you better put that down because that's your biggest mess. Like, Tiffany, you better never tell anyone that. Like, oh, never tell your daughter that you were divorced. Oh my gosh, what would she think of you? Oh my gosh, it was the thing that like made her see and ask questions like, okay, so what is a divorce? Okay, and then she did ask, what would you and Dad ever get divorced? And I was like, that's such a good question. I was like, so I didn't know Jesus then. And He was right there, and we were prepped for this, so we had a nice prepped answer. And like, so when Mom and Dad got married, we had like the threefold cord. I was like, so we kind of braided our life in with God. I was like, so we're very anchored to God. And we asked a lot of people to come around us and hold us accountable to what God says. I was like, so no, but that's not on the table for our family. And then she's asking all the right questions, like with the information she has now. So Mom, if this happened and this happened, would that be bad and they should run away, right? Yes. Like, and would that, so they should break up? I'm like, you're absolutely right. She's like, yeah, because you don't talk to boys like that, or you don't talk to girls like that. I'm like, good. Correct, little Oprah. Like, so.
And then where do you see so there's also a thing, I know, I kind of believe I don't believe manifestation that we make it happen. I do believe that God gives us visions, and it does talk about in Psalms that a man without a vision perishes.
Yes,
so I believe that a lot of
like
times
my
people,
husband's favorite.
commit suicide too because they don't have a vision. They're not, because they don't see the vision, so they're in it. So what's your vision for the next next 5 years? Next 5 years.
So I'd like to continue speaking this year. I want to just be able to get these books in as many like bookstores, like churches, schools as possible. Unbeknownst to me, my daughter took the proof to school and had her teacher read it. I got an email in the afternoon from her teacher. It's like, I love the book you wrote. And I was like, how do you have it? It's not published yet. And I was reading it out, the email to my husband. Our desks are next to each other. I'm like, I just got the strangest email from our daughter's teacher. And he said, oh yeah, she put it in her backpack this morning. I was like, that's the proof. Like, I don't even know if that's allowed. Like, that's a big themed book. Like, are they gonna be okay? She's like, I got teary eyed reading it at the end. I had 2 parents in the class. Like, one sent me an email and then one stopped me. They said, so and so our daughter came home. They talked to us about the book, and for both of them, it was a really great tool because unfortunately, our stories aren't uncommon. And it's happening younger and younger. Yes. One of them, the sister had gone through something. So last summer, the older sister went through something, and the family's been getting the sister help. Have been isolating the second grader from it because it's like we can't. It's too big. We can't. Yes. And then that child had since about Christmas has been acting up because there's so much focus on
the one child
and feeling ignored. No, you're not ignored, but we're in crisis mode here.
Yes.
So the daughter came home and said, my friend's mom wrote this book. Is this what happened? Sissy, did someone burn her garden? And they were like, what happened? And so she was telling the story, and she's like, yeah, that's what happened.
That's
and
really
then,
cool that it helped.
Another mom, her niece went through something similar. So it was something similar. She's like, oh, how was school? Blah, blah.
Yeah.
My friend's mom wrote a book. And she goes, oh my gosh, what happened next? Like, well, and then it all, spoiler alert, it has a very happy ending.
Yes.
And she said, your cousin so-and-so, you can be praying for them that they have a happy ending, because that's happened in our family too. Like, oh, okay. So kids can handle, like, if you put it in a size for the backpack that they're carrying, they can handle these bigger themes. And like,
I'm gonna read this tonight.
Yeah.
I know this is gonna help me.
It was just really, really sweet to say, like, that's exactly what it's for. Yeah. Is like, just start the conversation. Your kids can handle. They can handle a lot. If they can understand, like, you should not walk out into the middle of the road. Like, why? Because you could get hit by a car. Yeah. Like, are you going to show them slides of what happens when people have skull fractures? No. But you can tell them.
And I think that is a great thing to teach children about the Holy Spirit and the intuition to listen to that.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah.
So. Is there anything, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but is there anything I forgot to ask you, or something that you definitely want to share?
This is my whole heart. It's like, this is the big dream, is to like take these books and just start speaking, creating more age group educational things, resources for parents, and just being able to help women really find their voice, because women experience different seasons of silence, whether it's...
And I love that she speaks.
Yeah.
It's really like, this has something impacted in my life, because I've never spoken about this ever publicly at all. And I'm pretty public with most of my life, so... and I try
Not many people turn a room into a studio.
And I try to so hard be like, take responsibility. So I'm like, I've been incarcerated, I've been a drug addict, so I've tried so hard to be like what I can take responsibility for and not blame anybody else. So you just, even sharing your story made, helped me feel a little safer to open up a little bit about my story, story. I
think that there's this idea of extreme ownership, especially like when we've been through it.
Yes.
So. And that's a sign of a great leader. And I warned my husband against this, because he's one of those, like, extreme ownership. He's read the book, listened to the audio, so everything he says falls back on him. I said, yes.
That's how, and so I'm like, if I could have just been sober, I would have let you know.
Exactly. Like, it all boils down to my fault. Like, or I said, and I told him, I was like, I love extreme ownership. I also live by extreme grace. And I know that, like, God's hand is over all of it.
Yes.
And it's in the healing. So, like, for you to say it was all on you also makes you the author of the universe, if you really boil it down to just seeing everything through that one lens.
Yeah, I know.
So it's okay to say things weren't my fault. I can have grace for them, though, because the Lord can have grace for them. Or I can learn to forgive them, though, and not identify someone as a sin, but as, like, a person who, like, felt a sin, was hurting themselves. Like, to blame someone for a blood stain when they're hemorrhaging, like, maybe not fair. But, like, again, if you also were hemorrhaging, like, then just at that point, just worry about your wound. So when you have someone who wants to take ownership over everything, like, yes. And you can also, like, see, like, okay, I own these actions, and I also understand, like, I was the product of who knows what, and I'm covered by grace. Like, there's multiple things that can be true. At the same time. So,
well, thank you so much for coming. I'd love to talk to you more privately and hang with lunch or something, but this has been a blessing to me.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Love Garden and the Golden No, and I'll make sure we have links. And thank you all for watching. Hope you have a blessed and beautiful night. See ya.